Welcome to the desert of the real.
Hello? Yes, hi, how are you? Yeah, I want to answer that question. First of all, yes, I'll answer that question, and I want to make a comment on running a credit check on someone, which I feel is a poor excuse for actually being able to converse with the person. A relationship is built upon trust, and I think I'm not totally against running a credit check per se, but I think you should ask the person, is it okay to do that? I don't think you should do that without their permission. Now, in addressing the other question that you asked is because two white men, take Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, and I'm just doing this for redundancy, by the way. I could actually just use one, have a higher net worth than virtually 38 million blacks. So whites actually have lots of money, and of course blacks don't. But you ask here, why do black men place the title and stigma of gold digger on black women, but seem to give white women a pass even though they excel at it more? Okay, there's much more money in the white community, but the money that a person has is still their money. So if black men, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily true, although I do believe there's an entitlement mentality of most women. And there is, as I think about it, and I even cite this as a superficiality that blocks so many women, the attitude of entitlement. And one can have that attitude, certainly black women, and I'm not saying that all black women do, but certainly they can have that attitude, and I think it's an American thing that women have the attitude of entitlement, and that just simply means an inappropriate claim on someone else's resources, and it can certainly inure to expecting a guy to pay for dates or buy her gifts or whatever. That's wrong. That shouldn't be the case. But that would be my response to both of those situations, the gold digger situation.
Did you say it will be wrong for not even just talking about black women, but it will be wrong for a woman to expect that a man would pay for a date?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you asked.
Hasn't it always been that way?
No. Well, it was that way, and it was rightly so that way before women worked.
What changed?
Well, I'm telling you, before women became 54% of the workforce. See, now women earn their own money, so they should be willing to share their own money as expecting to just be dependent on a guy's money. So that's very, very important. And what happens is that gives women, first of all, when you meet somebody, and your first meeting is to determine if you can be a partner. And if a person comes into a relationship being a parasite versus a partner that is just wanting to, use the resources of the guy in this example, instead of wanting to share, that's an indicator that this person is not of a good partner orientation. And it also it's a good predictor if a woman feels, or if a man feels, but in this case we're dealing with the woman, if a woman feels entitled to a man's money before she even gets to know him, imagine how she'll feel entitled if they have a relationship and there's a divorce. And remember, divorce is virtually only about money because you're in essence dissolving a corporation. You're dissolving a partnership. But I saw on you guys' website, and I really liked that, where you talked about, and this is not legal advice, by the way. We're just speaking from an educational and information standpoint. California does allow from the case Marvin versus Marvin, for you to draw up your own relationship contract. And I think that is a great communication aid, that because you are able, there's a saying that the writing is the mirror of a person's mind. You get to see a person's mind. And we're not talking about being antagonistic or hostile or anything like that. We're just saying if you're able to write down what your expectations are and what you're willing to give in a relationship, that is a very, very clarifying, uplifting, and I think spiritually oriented thing. And so I think the courts, and I can just say this on an informational basis, do recognize a contract where there's nothing done that's inherently illegal between two people of majority age who have come to majority age. So it's a contract, and more than the courts, it clarifies to the two people the nature of their relationship. So two people who draw up a contract, unless they're extremely wealthy, but even there, you can use attorneys and what have you and do a prenuptial. But people who draw up a contract are not likely, first of all, they're more likely to have a better relationship and far less likely to ever go to court. Because what are you going to court for? You already know what the nature of your agreement or relationship is. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That's the reason why we came up with this.
Exactly. Yes, thank you. I mean, when you talk about these contracts and stuff like that, right, and I've been in courts because, I used to be in commercial credit, so I used to sue people all the time. I made commercial law in New York State, and I can tell you this, that any contract that is written can be broken, okay? The elements of it...
If I may interrupt, I understand there are exceptions to a lot of things, but just understand what I'm saying, if you can. And I'm not saying you're arguing with me, but on a basic level, when people enter into a contract and I do mediations, I understand that. When people enter into a contract that they create, they're more likely to abide by it because they understand it and they did it. Now, I'm not saying there can't be exceptions.
I understood that when you said it the first time.
Good, that's my point.
Hold on a second, right? But what someone had already said in the background, right? Writing down some contract about what you're going to do, what you ain't going to do, doing someone's credit check and all the rest of that stuff, you know what I mean? For me, you know what I mean? It's taken away from what a relationship, from what I've had in relationships. I'm not saying I've had...
Now, I disagree with that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I disagree with that. I think that if you take the time to actually, we're not saying we're sitting down on one day and we're just hashing over everything. We're taking the time to say, okay, this is what I truly want from a relationship. Here's what I want. Here's what I'm willing to give. And you come to an agreement on those issues. So you get to know each other in the writing of the contract.
Beautifully.
You get a deeper understanding.
That's love enhancing.